Talk about an artistic left hook. Hi, I'm Jay Morse. I'm gonna skip my usual introduction words after how shell-shocked I am from this album. I'm not sure if I could remember them anyway. Yeah, Cane Hill, Kill the Sun. Cane Hill is a metal band, a new metalcore band, a band that blends alternative metal, new metal, metalcore, and groove metal in their sound. Formed in 2011. They changed up their sound a lot for the EP, with inspiration coming from Alice in Chains' 1994 EP, Jar of Flies, which was more kind of blues rock and alternative and kind of acoustic. And they were also influenced by MTV grunge era. And I'll go ahead and say my major gripe with this album before we get into it. If you are going to worship a band's sound or worship an entire genre sound and try to do it, that's fine. Inspiration's fine. If you want to sound like another band, go ahead. The only issue is, they don't do it very well. If you're gonna worship a sound, do it right. I think that's kind of rule number one about trying to sound like something else. You have to sound like that thing. People don't listen to Greta Van Fleet because they are amazing at what they do. They listen to Greta Van Fleet because they're amazing at sounding like Led Zeppelin. Holy crap, this album! 86D No Escape starts off the track listing with this very faint electronic intro that goes into simple drums and acoustic guitar that leads throughout the entire track. This instrumental is the lowest common denominator, status quo, cookie cutter, bare bones minimum acoustic instrumentation that I have ever heard in my entire life. And it really doesn't sound good, considering the fact that Elijah Witt, the lead vocalist, sounds terrible. This chorus sounds like he's trying to do a bad Godsmack impersonation. There's nothing to be found on this track, from harmony to melody to good vocals to lyricism. The lyricism is so cliche and stereotypical and trope-filled that there is nothing to be read between the lines about. Empty is like a low-key Latin rock type of thing that is about as low-key as the first track, about as boring as the last track. The chorus, once again, is so meh. His vocals do not sound very good on this track. And let me just say, you want to know the amazing type of lyricism that you are going to get on this album? This track has a lyric that I really do enjoy. A toothache that I just can't shake. There's some neat melodies on this track that are somewhat good, but for the most part, it's about as bad as the first track. Luckily though, this album does break up a bit, and it becomes a little bit better and easier to bear in the second half. Save Me has a very beautiful piano. I love the vocals on this track. This dude, Elijah, he sounds better when he's staying in this register. I don't like his register on the first two tracks, and it's not the last time he uses it on this album, or even in the tracks that I somewhat like, but his vocals do sound particularly better. I do enjoy the lyricism of this track, and the instrumentation is pretty nice, especially the piano. I really like the build-up going into the chorus, and the chorus really does work well in my opinion as well. This track also has some great harmonies with the piano working alongside the guitar. Kill the Sun, the self-titled fourth track on the album, in my personal humble opinion, is the best track on the album. The clapping really works great. Usually I'm not a big fan of that kind of clap in any type of track, but it works well here. His vocals, once again, just like on Save Me, are in the register that I personally like him in and think it sounds the best in. Love the lyricism on this track, especially the line, "I should learn to let this go," followed by "I will never let you go," and that kind of repeats, and it kind of overlaps to where "I should learn to let this go, I will never let you go." Like, it kind of blends together really nicely. I love that refrain. I think it sounds really good. The chorus in this track, very pretty, very good. Great melodies on this track. Overall, this is my favorite track on the album. Also really like kind of the repeating acoustic guitar on this track. It sounds a lot more well thought out and pretty than the first two tracks on the album. Acid Rain is a return to form of crap. It's more expansive feeling than it is. It feels like it should be bigger than it is. There's bongos on this track. Frickin' bongos! And do I hear a tambourine? This track sounds different than anything else on this album. And those are two things I forgot to really lead into this with. Number one, this album can't decide what it wants to be genre-wise. It really, genuinely can't. There is literally some Americana country type of sound. Yes, I just said the band Cane Hill and country in the same sentence. And secondly, the mixing on this album is so wonky and off. No two tracks have the same mixing. This album has no consistency in terms of the production factor. And it is not just a little bit. I can genuinely tell, and it's genuinely distracting. Smoking Man ends the track listing off, and it's a mixed bag. I do like the falsetto on this track more than I do on the rest of the album. This is the best part of the track listing where his falsetto really does work well. The instrumentation, for the most part, is pretty decent, but I don't like that weird electronic thing in the background that's hanging in the background that, like, it does not fit here whatsoever. It does not fit with this instrumentation, and I don't know why they threw it in there, but they did. The vocals, for the most part, on the rest of the track is very so-so. They're hit or miss to the maximum. Some neat lyrics fill this song out. I mean, they're decent. They're stereotypical. They're still predictable. They're still not really that smart or intuitive or really anything that we haven't heard before in a lot of bands like this. Overall, I did not like this album very much. There's a couple tracks that I can bear, and for the most part, it's not that listenable for me. I definitely disliked more tracks of it than I liked, and Cane Hill really let me down, and I'm all for experimentation, and I'm all for bands changing up their sound. Some of my favorite bands have changed up their sound over time, but if you're gonna try to sound like a different sound in a different band, try to be good at it. They're not that good at it, and I would rather listen to the bands that they're trying to copy than the copy. For the sake of this review, the reason it's coming out a little bit later than I might have hoped is because I went and listened to Alice in Chains' Jar of Flies, because I'd never heard that before, and I wanted to see the comparison. This doesn't sound like Jar of Flies. It barely sounds like the MTV grunge that they're trying to copy either. It's watered down, the mixing's weird, the vocals are weird, there's a lot of weak moments, the instrumentation's boring half the time, and the moments of clarity that do shine through this album are overshadowed by the crappy overtones that encompass the entire thing. Yeah, I was excited for this EP, but it let me down. But that's me. I'm going to be giving this album a 3 out of 10. Is that a wrap? Did you listen to this EP? Did you? What'd you think of it? Did you like it? Were there any tracks you liked? Go ahead and tell me. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you haven't already, hit that notification bell to be notified of more uploads, and I'm gonna go wipe away my PTSD from listening to this album. I will talk to you guys next time, but until then, my name is J Morse Review Guy. I'm signing off. I'm saying farewell.